Hi everybody, welcome to this week's Meditation Mastery. I'm sitting here, let me give you a shot, perched atop Thunder Mountain. It's the highest point in Sedona. Really a beautiful spot. There's a lot to see. It took about 2 hours to get up here. And I really liked the journey up here, and I realized that this is something that I really want to talk about. And it kind of has a lot of parallels to life. And as a lot of you know myself, as you see, I left my home in Boston and I've been traveling. And I call it jumping into the void, because I don't really know where I'm going per se. I don't really know what I'm going to find. But I knew that there's something that I had to find, that it felt right for me to make this step into the void. And I call it the void because it almost feels like nothingness or emptiness. My existence sphere wants to have something to grab onto for security, to know what's what, where it is, that things will be okay. But at the moment, there isn't a lot to grab onto. And this trip, this step into the void, it has opened up for so much growth, for so much beauty, for so much newness to come through. By making myself an open system, I've really allowed things to shift and change that maybe have been stuck for a long time. And also, it's allowed new people, new experiences, just new things into my life that weren't able to come in because I had been holding on to how things were. So again, this principle of sometimes you have to let go to receive, right? That the law of attraction only works if you've released the things that don't serve you to allow the things that do serve you. And as we were climbing up this mountain, Thunder Mountain, this is actually, I think it's the most dangerous mountain in Arizona. So the most deaths per year on Thunder Mountain actually happen. And it's because there's a lot of wrong ways to go. In some places, the rocks are kind of crumbly. Some people come up here maybe at the wrong time of day, so it's getting dark or inclement weather. So it's kind of a common thing for helicopter stuff to come up here and rescue people. This is my, I think, third time up here, and this is my first time coming up here without a guide. Actually, I guided somebody else up here this time. So it's kind of this new experience of coming up this mountain, pretty much knowing the way, but every now and then getting to places in the past where you have to stop and look and think, maybe backtrack a little, try this way, try that way, look around. And there's this interesting play, this dynamic between kind of knowing the direction that I want to go, kind of even seeing the places that I want to get to, but having an unclear way. And this process of trial and error to kind of feel my way out, to work my way to the place that I want to get to have to let go of the path that I had in my head, but also to be open and flexible to going whatever way I need to go to get to the place that I'm headed. And this kind of balance, this mix between intention, which sets direction, and openness to be in the moment, but also structure, like I know that I'm not going to be climbing any cliff faces, I'm not going to do anything that's dangerous or life-threatening, that I find, my rules for walking my path. Here's my rules, here's what my rules look like. And using my rules to find that flexibility, to find the right way, and then to head in the direction that I want, feels so similar actually to the experience that I'm going through in life as well. I feel mountain climbing has often been a metaphor that people use for life, this whole, one step at a time and you reach the top. Or if you're too focused on the top, you miss the surrounding beauty. But if you're lost in the beauty, you never get to the destination. I know in India, a lot of monasteries and temples and ashrams are on top of the mountain, because having to go up this mountain, and it's also this practice of almost like purification and, trying to get to this place. It's almost like you've offered this energy, you've created this determination and this focus that once you get to the top, you can finally receive what you've been looking for. That mountains are often used in spirituality and spiritual practices, and I understand more and more. The more time I spend on mountains, I understand why. And it's because there's just so many metaphors to be taken. The process of climbing up the mountain is so similar to the process of life. And what I really wanted to focus on, as I was saying, was what I've been seeing in my own life is that I have to have some intentions, a rough general direction, but simultaneously I have to be very open to see how the whole thing unfolds, what direction the whole thing goes in. And I have to practice then letting go of control, to allow it to go in whatever direction it needs to get me to the place that I want to go. There's a book actually I read called Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. And it's a book, it's very famous, especially in Germany. And it takes place around the time of the Buddha. And Siddhartha is actually the name of the character of the book, not the Buddha himself. But the character in the book, Siddhartha, he's looking for a spiritual path. And he actually encounters the Buddha. And he meets the Buddha and they talk. And he says, this guy's got it. This guy's enlightened. This is what I'm looking for. And then he says to the Buddha, you found it. Thank you. And then he kind of picks up his stuff and he goes the other way. And he ends up going on this long journey of becoming a merchant and getting married and having a son. And then eventually, working on a river, helping people cross a river on a raft. And he goes through this whole other process. And by the end of the book, his friend that was with him at the beginning of the book, his friend ordained under the Buddha. And at the end of the book, they come back together. And the friend is still searching for the answers. But Siddhartha in the book, he's found it and he's enlightened by the end of the book. And the point of all of this is saying that we often hold too much on the path and what the path looks like and the clothing that it wears or the structures of it. But when Siddhartha met the Buddha, he said, you're my new intention. You're the place that I want to get to. But to get to that place, I need to go this way. I have to go through this set of processes to finally come full circle to where you are. Whereas some people that just, they ordained and they pursued the Buddha directly in robes and went that way, they didn't ever find it because they were holding on to a form, what it should look like. And I guess this is a very good simile from my own life, one who's left the monastery, who felt that it was really right to go into the monastery, and then it felt really right to leave the monastery. Both of those decisions, although they're polar opposites, they both felt like the next right thing for me to do. And a metaphor that I've often given, it's like if you're growing a tomato plant, you take the seed and you plant it, and you can water it and you weed it and you make sure it has the right kind of earth and temperatures and everything and sunlight. But how that plant grows, that's not in your control, and how many tomatoes it has and how big those tomatoes are. You can't control that. You can keep feeding the conditions. You can keep making sure it has the water and the sun and the things that it needs. And the intention is there of I'm growing food for myself. But exactly how that looks, that's out of your control. And when you work with the earth, when you garden, you have this interesting play. You understand this play between how much, effort, control do I actually have? How can I feed the right conditions to get the product? And also how much of what grows, what it looks like exactly, the yield, is still a bit out of my control. And this has, for me personally, always been kind of a metaphor for how I do life, is that I have intentions. I have, again, kind of my rules, the conditions that I feed it, right? Like I feed myself, I put myself in God's way. I say, right, you can put yourself in harm's way. I try to put myself in God's way. So I try to, go to spiritual events and meet different people and spend time in nature and read books. And I try to put myself in the kind of field of spirituality, of growth, of learning, of wisdom. I just try to put myself in proximity. Tony Robbins says proximity is power. And I try to put myself in the proximity of different things that can help me. And some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them help me in ways I didn't even expect. Some of them give me exactly what I want. But I keep feeding the conditions. I keep putting myself on the good way, and I keep being honest. I keep following my heart. I play by my set of rules that feels right for me, like watering the tomato plant, giving it enough sunlight, right? Making sure that I get enough exercise, making sure that I eat and drink healthily. I have my way of doing things, and simultaneously then I'm open to whatever grows. And that's like what this trip is, for instance, is that I've put myself in God's way, and I'm open, and I'm looking, and I'm talking to people, and I'm following the places that feel right to visit. But exactly what it looks like, exactly where I'm going to end up, whether I end up living in Sedona for a year, whether I go up to Eugene, whether I go back to Boston, whether I have multiple bases. It's all really open and I don't know. But I know that I'm not going to stop until I'm at the place that I want to be. And I think that's the way that we can find trust in these situations, is that we make ourselves that promise, that we have to really love ourselves enough to say, I'm going to jump into the void, but I'm not going to quit until we get to the place that we want to get to. And I'm going to keep flowing, keep working, keep trying it out until I get there. Same thing like climbing this mountain. We don't know exactly the way at some points, but we feel it out. We say we're going to figure it out. We're going to get there. We're going to make safe, and we're going to make sure that it's okay, but we're going to get there. So within all of this, there's really also clearly the theme of direction, of having a direction that you're going in. And something that does often also happen in life is that we feel lost, that we'll feel directionless, right? That we feel stuck, that we don't really know what we want, or we kind of know what we want, but we don't see any possible way to get there. And I also feel called to bring in this aspect of things, but also to say that that's okay. And this is really, really, really important. I found for myself, so I really want to give this information to other people, is that it's okay. Because when you feel lost or when you feel found, those are still just two sides of one coin, right? I call it the wheel. If you think of like a wheel, and on the top it's like the sun and on the bottom's the moon, right? The rotation of day and night, light and dark, highs and lows, good and bad, all of these things that are kind of rotating. It's like a wheel. And a lot of times we just want the good things in the wheel. We just want the sunny parts. We just want to be happy, and we want to be successful and abundant, and these co-creators of the universal destinies and all these crazy things, whatever it is. But what we don't want, I don't want to feel like I'm not enough. I don't want to feel lost. I don't want to feel like I don't know where I'm going. I don't want to feel powerless. I don't want to feel confused. I don't want to feel frustrated. I don't want to feel angry. I don't want to feel sad. I don't want to feel lonely, right? That there's all of these things that we don't want. And we try to push those things away often. But what happens is that then the wheel starts to get stuck. That actually by not wanting something, that stops the wheel from turning, and it holds that thing in your face. This is why a lot of people, actually what depression is that on a deep level there's something that we're resisting, and because we're resisting it, it stays with us. It stays with us because we're actually holding on to it and we don't even realize it. Because not wanting something or wanting something, two sides of the same coin of connection, right? Pushing or pulling, we're still connecting, we're still holding, grasping. So I saw when I went on my retreats, I would often cry in my retreats for days. I would really go deeply into all of the feelings that I was afraid of feeling, all of the situations from my life that were difficult, things I didn't want to face, and I would face them. I would consciously bring them up, to face them, to feel them, to deal with them, to think them through, to feel them through, to work on shifting my relationship to things. And only when I had gone through those things, right, you need to feel it to heal it. Once I had gone through those things, then they'd start to shift and the wheel would start to turn. So sometimes in life we actually feel stuck because we're trying so hard to be found. Yeah, sometimes in life we feel angry because we really, really, really want to be happy, right? Or we feel so alone because we really, really, really want connection, that we sometimes are grasping so hard on wanting one thing or not wanting something else that we actually lock our state in place in a weird way. And sometimes it's actually about allowing yourself to feel the things you don't want, to go through them, to take a breath, to acknowledge yourself, right? To really acknowledge yourself, where you're at, how you're feeling, and that allows you to move forward. And I'm also saying this because, on the way up here the mountain, there was like one place towards the top where we were like, we have no idea where to go. And we started going one way, the rock started crumbling. We're like, okay, it's not that way. We saw another way and we're like, that way doesn't look right. And we had to just kind of stop and sit down and say, okay, this is really difficult. This is uncomfortable. This is scary. We don't know where we are. We don't remember this part of the mountain exactly. And we had to sit and breathe and slowly go through it, slowly think it out, slowly feel it out, slowly devise a strategy. And then we found a way up that made sense, that wasn't dangerous, that kind of was getting us in the direction we wanted to go. And then it was fine. But that only was able to happen because we sat down and allowed ourselves to feel all of those things we didn't want to feel. We had to feel lost. We had to feel like not competent, right? We had to feel unsure. We had to just sit and feel that stuff, and then we can make the next step. So this is a really important part of life, actually, right? Of the path and the practice, but also of life. It's really knowing that there's this wheel and there's all things in that wheel. It's all a part of it. Everything in the human experience is in that wheel. And the more that we allow that wheel to freely turn, the more that we are actually free. It's not about locking the wheel in place that there's only the good feelings, only the sunny side showing. It's about learning how that wheel can rotate fast. Learning how something could happen and you're like, oh, this is great. And something difficult happens. You say, oh, that sucks. And how can I keep the wheel going? How can I move through this, move through this, move through this? And the more that we allow that wheel to turn, the more that we allow everything to revolve and rotate, it actually creates a healthy flow, a healthy system. And, in Chinese medicine, they talk about blocks, right? When people talk about chakras, they talk about blocks. If you think about a stream, if there's like a block, if something's blocked, the water doesn't flow, the water gets stagnant. So it's actually, if you think about flow is healthy, flow is life, flow is freshness and change. Stagnation is when things are stuck. That's what sickness, that's what disease all comes from too. So you want flow, you want things to move, and that also means sometimes having to accept the things you don't want to. This directly connects back to the mind, directly connects back to meditation practice. Anytime we sit down and we're facing the mind, you can see very clearly, one of my teachers, Ajahn Brahm, he said, you'll know how you've been doing with your mind all day, because when you sit down to meditate, if you're feeling really restless, you know that you're chasing sensory pleasures all day long, right? If you feel really tired and dull, it means like you're not inspired. If you're worrying about a lot of things, it means that you're being heedless on your fear. If you're angry and stuff, it means you haven't been, setting clear boundaries or speaking up what you want. That whenever you sit in meditation and you watch the things coming up, you can see exactly how you've been living your life. You see how much you've been open, how much you've been tight, how much you've been letting things flow, how much you've been courageous and facing things, or how much you've been afraid and holding things back or pushing things away. That you really start to see through the practice everything that you're doing. You start to see yourself more clearly. And I think that, again, just kind of tying it all together, that, the more that you allow yourself to go through things, the more that you allow yourself to jump into the void when it feels right, the more that you allow yourself to really do what is difficult, but what is right, you start to also develop a bit of fearlessness in yourself. You start to develop a new kind of trust, a trust and a faith in yourself, that whatever happens, you can get through it. Yeah, that you start to get a deep sense of security that's not based on having money, having a home, having a partnership, having a place, having a purpose, having a job, having all these external things to feel safe. You start to gain a new kind of security that you yourself feel, whatever comes my way, I'll be able to deal with it. Yeah, and this is a real sense of security. It's a deeper sense of security. It's a sense of security that doesn't leave you, that doesn't shift based on the conditions externally. Yeah, maybe then even harder or bigger, scarier things will come to kind of test that or to help you grow more, right? But at the end of the day, it's all about finding that inner security, that inner sense that I can get through whatever comes. I will get through. I know how to figure things out. I don't have to have all the answers, but I know that I will have the answers, and I know the path to find the answers. So to know the path and not to be so focused on having the result. We are a very result-based culture, right? If you look at how we grow our food, if you look at the internet, if you look at the instant gratification that we all want. People want, more and more. I'm at a traffic light and it turns green and the person behind me honks right away, right? That right away, we're like, the thing I want isn't there and I'm angry. Right? We get angry or frustrated that I'm not getting what I want right when I want it. Yeah, it's happening, and we're very focused on getting the results we want, but we're not so focused on the path to get them. And when I was in Germany, I saw they cut down whole forests to plant these trees because they grew quickly, but the trees, the wood is terrible wood to use. And then also like the beetles went in and ate that one kind of wood. And it's like, because the Romans, I think actually are the ones that did it, they wanted instant wood, instant gratification. They created a total imbalance in the ecosystem. And if you look around at the ecosystem, at the world, at pollution, right? What is pollution? You have this thing, you just throw it away because you don't want to have anything to do with it. You want instant gratification. I want that instantly to not be my problem anymore, right? So now we have like trash islands floating in the ocean because people just throw their stuff and they don't care. So if you really look closely, the more that we focus on getting the results we want, but we forget the path, we're going to be going in the wrong direction. And I've said this with meditation a number of times as well, that if you're sitting there trying to get peaceful, trying to meditate, you're not going to get it. Meditation, it's not grabbing onto the result. It's not pushing yourself at the result. Meditation actually comes from allowing. Meditation comes from letting go. Meditation comes from feeding the process of allowing yourself to be present, feeling like everything's okay, feeling the ground under your butt, feeling the air around you, your breath, letting go of wanting to be anywhere else, acknowledging everything that's flying up in your face that you don't want to feel, feeling everything, being fully where you are, right? When you're fully where you are, you're present. When you're present, the mind is concentrated. When the mind is concentrated, you're meditating. Yeah, so meditation, it's not about getting something. It's actually about allowing all that is. Meditation, it's being a whole, it's part of that wheel, accepting the whole thing, accepting where you're at, letting go of trying to escape from all of that into this blissful paradise state called meditation. I'm here and I want to be there, right? Because that's a form of grasping. That's a form of pushing away. You're rejecting your state. You want something else. If you go into your meditation with that attitude, nothing's going to happen, right? Yeah, there is a state that's called peace and you're not feeling it right now. But what is the way to get there with wisdom, right? What is the way to get there? And the way to get there, it's to jump into the void. It's to let go of your game plan. It's to be present and to feel stuff out, to have your rules. I'm going to sit here with my eyes closed and breathe and relax. Those are my framework. Where that's going to take me exactly, I don't know, but that's not under my control. I can only keep feeling out the next part of the path. Relax a little bit more, breathe a little bit deeper, right? Sink a little bit, focus a little bit more on the breath, or focus on the space around me a little bit more, right? Breathing that in. Whatever little tweaks you need to make, you feel that out as you go. And that's how you get to the right place, is you're feeding the conditions. You're feeding the peace, you're feeding the contentment, you're feeding the presence. And then the mind, the plant of meditation naturally grows in the soil of the mind because you've been feeding it what it needs, instead of trying to force it to be something you want it to be. And that's, control freak, like I often say, that's how you destroy things, that's how you kill things. That's how you kill a relationship, it's how you kill your life. It's how you kill your meditation. If you try to force it, if you try to control it, if you try to hold on to it too tight, you strangle it, you kill it. Yeah, you have to have open hands, you have to let go, and then you have to feed it the conditions to grow. Yeah, this is also good advice if you're raising children, right? Same kind of principles. You have to find that balance between being open and feeding the support, the love, the protection, the empowerment, the acceptance. Yeah, and not try to control what that child looks like, how that goes. Right? These principles can be applied to so many things. They're very universal in our relationship to the world, so it is. So that's kind of the talk for today. Really finding that balance between having the intention, knowing the direction you want to go in, and also letting go, also letting things take their course, and just feeling it out and kind of giving, the little conditions, the little tweaks that you need to along the way, but letting it take whatever form it needs to. Okay, and then eventually if you do that and you follow the path, you'll get to where you want to be. And it might not look how you want it to look. It's maybe like I went to a gym and the guy said, yeah, a lot of people, they come here because they want to get six packs. And the first thing I say is, do you want to get six packs or do you want to feel confident? And it's a great question. And it's the same thing. We maybe don't want the six pack. We just want to feel confident in ourselves. We want to feel good about ourselves. Right? So if we're forcing ourselves to look good, to get good muscles, we're maybe missing the point entirely. Right? So actually understanding the thing you want is that good feeling. I want to feel confident, I want to feel peaceful, I want to feel free, I want to feel happy. Yeah, and maybe my way to get that, it's a different game plan than I've been using this whole time. Maybe I'm focusing on the wrong, the form. Maybe I think it looks a certain way, so I've been trying to get this way that it looks. Right, money or power or something that we think how it looks. But maybe it doesn't look like that. Maybe I have to follow the breadcrumbs of happiness and peace and relaxation and presence. Maybe I just have to start following my happiness and it'll eventually lead me to the place that I'm supposed to go. instead of telling it what it wants, let it tell you what it wants. Yeah, and same thing for the meditation. Let the peace tell you what it wants. Yeah, let the presence tell you what it wants. Let this moment tell you what it wants. Okay? So thank you so much for sitting. We'll meditate right after this. Just one more quick view around. So beautiful. So beautiful here. Okay, meditate soon.